The stars were quiet that night. Ships burned in silence, wrecks drifting across the void. The enemy fleet spread across the battlefield, their banners glowing, their weapons humming with victory songs. They had crushed Earth's defenses. They had broken the human lines. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw humanity on its knees. The war council of the enemy believed it was over. Commanders laughed inside their warships, their voices carried across encrypted channels. Humans are finished, they said. Their fleets are gone. Their colonies burn. Their spirit is shattered. But they were wrong, because in the silence of space, far from the wreckage, something stirred. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was not broken. Humanity was waiting. Admiral Reeve floated inside the last human command ship. His uniform was torn. Blood stained his sleeve, but his eyes were still sharp. Round him, officers whispered reports. Enemy fleets are celebrating. They think we're destroyed. Reeve gave no smile. Good, he said. Let them believe it. Let them sing. The shadows of ruined ships, hidden among the dead hulks, a message moved. Not in the open channels, those were watched. Not in standard code, those were cracked. Instead, the humans used an old signal, one the enemy thought long forgotten. A signal so simple it looked like noise. The signal said, "We are still here. Answer the call." It spread like a whisper, from ruined ships, from abandoned colonies, from deep space miners who still had welding torches in their hands instead of guns, from civilians who refused to surrender, from soldiers hiding in caves and deserts in the black of space. Humanity was answering, but the enemy could not hear. They were blind in their triumph. Their ships lit the sky, celebrating with fire. Their soldiers cheered in occupied cities, shouting over broken humans, mocking them. Where is your courage now? Where is your strength? You are dust beneath our feet. The humans heard those words.
Yes.
And they remembered them. In one ruined colony, a child picked up a broken helmet. The visor was cracked, the system's dead, but she held it like treasure. In the dirt, she carved the human signal, 3 lines, then 2. Answer the call. On a mining asteroid, workers used their drills as weapons, their tunnels as traps.
Ow.
They didn't wait for orders. They had already heard the signal in the forests of a captured world. Survivors lit fires in patterns, sending smoke into the skies. The pattern was old, older than spaceflight, but every human knew it. The signal again. Answer the call. Admiral Reeves stood at the center of it all, staring at the vast display of stars. His fleet was shattered, but his people were not. The enemy thought they had destroyed Earth's armies. What they didn't understand was simple. Humanity's army was not only ships and soldiers. Humanity's army was everyone. "Admiral," one officer whispered, "we don't have enough weapons. We don't have enough ships." Reeves' voice was low but steady. "Then we use what we have. Humans have always done more with less. That is why we survive. That is why we fight. And that is why they will regret rejoicing." Outside, the enemy fleets moved on, careless. Blind, their victory music echoing. They didn't notice the sparks in the dark. They didn't notice the survivors gathering, the whispers spreading, the small fires of resistance burning across the stars. One soldier, hiding in a cave on a captured moon, looked at his broken rifle. The barrel was cracked, the power cell gone. But he picked up a rock, heavy and sharp. His voice was steady as he whispered to himself, "Answer the call." A group of engineers trapped on a dead station took old cargo ships and strapped explosives to them. They had no shields, no weapons, but they had courage. Their leader whispered, "Answer the call." Across the galaxy, humanity rose. Not in one place, not in one army, but everywhere, all at once. And Admiral Reeve, with blood drying on his sleeve, gave the order the enemy would never forget. His voice cut through the silence, reaching every hidden fighter, every survivor, every broken soul who still had strength to stand. "Humanity," he said, "this is not the end. This is the beginning. The enemy thinks they have one. They are wrong. The fight is not over. The fight starts now. Answer the call." In the silence of space, the whisper turned into a roar. The broken became soldiers. Scattered became an army. The enemy had rejoiced too soon. And now, humanity was answering. The enemy fleets spread further into human space. Their ships cut across trade lanes like wolves through herds. Worlds fell one by one, and the enemy commanders laughed. Humanity is broken, they told their soldiers. The rest is just cleanup. But in the shadows, the whispers grew louder. The signal moved across the stars, answered the call. The enemy never noticed the silence between their own victories. They didn't see the empty wrecks moving. They didn't see the civilian freighters that suddenly changed course. They didn't understand that the humans were already gathering. The first strike came quietly. It began on an abandoned fueling station near the outer rim. The enemy had left it behind. Thinking it worthless? They didn't know humans were hiding inside, engineers and mechanics, using scraps and fire to build traps. When the first enemy patrol docked, laughing at their easy victory, the station came alive. Old fuel lines exploded, doors slammed shut. Like Jaws, the humans attacked with nothing but welding torches, mining lasers, and sharpened tools. The patrol never returned. The signal spread faster after that. Humanity had drawn blood. On the dark side of a captured moon, a group of human pilots took broken cargo shuttles and armed them with explosives. They painted them black, flying low. Hiding in craters, the enemy fleet above never expected an attack. When the shuttles launched, they moved like shadows. The enemy laughed at first. Civilian ships, they said, helpless. But then the shuttles crashed into their warships, burning in waves of fire. 3 enemy destroyers were torn apart in minutes. The galaxy felt the tremor. Humanity was striking back. Admiral Reeve watched the reports with calm eyes. Around him, his officers were restless. One said, "We've awakened them, sir. Long can we last? They still have more ships, more soldiers, more everything." Reeve didn't blink. "They always have more. But they don't have what we have." "What's that, Admiral?" He looked at them, his voice sharp as steel. "The will to fight, even after losing everything. That is what they can't understand. That is why they will lose." The enemy soon began to notice. In captured cities, soldiers who had once mocked the humans now found themselves ambushed in alleys. A broken bottle became a weapon. A length of wire became a trap. Farmers poisoned supply lines. Children carried. Signals carved into dirt, painted on walls, whispered in songs, "Answer the call." The enemy commanders grew angry. They are weak. They are finished. Why are they still resisting? But fear crept into their voices. Because for the first time, their victory didn't feel secure. On one occupied planet, a squad of enemy soldiers marched through a ruined street. They laughed, stepping over the rubble, when suddenly, the ground shook. Hidden mines exploded. Buildings collapsed around them. From the dust, humans appeared, men, women, even the old armed with rifles, knives, and fury. The squad was erased in minutes. The enemy recorded the event and sent it to their council. The council fell into silence as they watched. "This is not normal," one of them whispered. "No species fights like this after losing." But humans did. Everywhere the enemy thought they had peace, resistance burned. A patrol ship exploded near an asteroid field, destroyed by hidden human fighters. A convoy vanished in deep space. It's taken by pirates who were not pirates at all, just farmers turned warriors, and then came the strike that shook the galaxy, near the edge of human space. The enemy had built a forward base. It was strong, shielded, guarded by heavy fleets. They thought no one could touch it. But Admiral Reeve had a plan. He sent not soldiers, but civilians. Old freighters loaded with scrap metal. Mining ships with cargo holds packed full of fuel. They flew toward the base slowly, weakly, pretending to be refugees. The enemy laughed at them, allowed them close. Then the freighters lit up, the humans. Inside gave their lives, turning their ships into fireballs. The base erupted in flames. Half the fleet was torn apart before it could react. The enemy was no longer laughing. From his command ship, Reeve watched the fire burn. His hand was steady. As he gave the order, "Scatter, strike where it hurts. Make them bleed until they cannot stand." And so it began. The humans didn't fight in lines anymore. They didn't fight like other species. They fought everywhere, all at once, with anything. The galaxy had seen humans broken. Now it was seeing something worse, humans rising, and the enemy realized too late they had celebrated too soon. The enemy's war council sat in silence. Their great chamber, once filled with songs of victory, now echoed with fear. Screens showed reports from every corner of human space: patrols destroyed, fleets scattered, colonies refusing to bow. It wasn't supposed to be like this. One commander slammed his fist against the table. "They have no fleets left, no armies. Why do they fight as if they can still win?" Another spoke, voice tight with unease. "They do not fight like any species we know. They do not surrender when broken. They change." The council fell into quiet again. No one wanted to admit it, but the truth hung in the air. Humanity was not fighting a normal war. Humanity was fighting something else, something without rules, something without mercy. Admiral Reeve knew this well. From the bridge of his battered flagship, he studied the enemy's movements. They were slow now, hesitant, afraid of shadows. Reeve's officers gathered around. One said, "They are pulling back from patrol routes. They leave their convoys guarded by heavier ships." "They are scared, Admiral." Reeve's voice was calm. "Good. Fear is a weapon too. Humanity knows how to use it." The humans fought in ways the enemy had never seen. On a captured world, a group of farmers poisoned rivers used by the invaders. Entire regiments fell sick. No battle, no soldiers, only water and patience. In the vacuum of space, scavengers strapped explosives to dead ships and let them drift among enemy fleets. When the fleets pulled the wrecks in for salvage, they exploded, tearing warships apart. A city world, humans dug tunnels beneath streets. At night, they rose like ghosts, striking enemy soldiers before vanishing again. The enemy called them the Shadows, but to the humans, they were only neighbors with courage. The War Council grew desperate. They called their scholars, their historians, even their philosophers. They demanded an answer. What word do we use for this human way of war? The scholars searched their languages. They had words for conquest, words for glory, words for slaughter, but none fit. Humanity's war was not conquest. It was not glory. It was not even survival in the way they understood. One scholar finally spoke. They fight as if the war is in their blood. They fight as if defeat itself is an enemy they cannot accept. There is no word in our tongue for this. The commanders looked at each other. Silence was heavy. Because now they understood, humanity's strength was not their ships, not their weapons. It was their refusal to die quietly. Meanwhile, across the stars, the signal kept spreading. Answer the call. A mother hiding in the ruins of her home taught her children the signal with stones. A group of miners carved it into the walls of tunnels. A soldier, bleeding in the dirt, scratched it with his last breath. Everywhere, the call burned brighter. Admiral Reeve received new reports daily. Some were victories, others were tragedies. But all were proof of one thing. The enemy had awakened something far greater than they imagined. One night, as the ship drifted in the black, an officer whispered to Reeve, "Admiral, do you think we can truly win this war? Or are we only delaying the end?" Reeve looked out at the stars, his face carved with lines of exhaustion. "Win." His voice was low but sharp. "We already have. They wanted humanity gone. But look at us. We are everywhere. We're unbroken. And every time we strike, we remind them of what they fear most." "What's that, sir?" Reeve turned, his eyes burning. "That we do not stop." At the same time, the enemy fleets began to change tactics. They avoided human territories, too afraid of traps. They stopped patrolling at night on captured worlds. Their soldiers traveled in groups, always looking over their shoulders. They were afraid, and fear spreads faster than fire. On one occupied planet, an enemy officer shouted at his soldiers, "Stand firm, They are only a broken people. They cannot harm us. But his words trembled, and every soldier knew he didn't believe them. That night, half his squad vanished into the dark, never to be seen again. The war was shifting. The galaxy watched in silence, stunned. Every other species had fallen quietly when conquered. Every other species had bent the knee when their fleets were destroyed. But not humanity. Humanity was rewriting the rules. Humanity was teaching the galaxy something new, something terrifying. The enemy had no word for it, but the humans had one. Defiance, and it was only growing stronger. The enemy had seen enough. For weeks, their fleets had been harassed, their patrols destroyed. Their soldiers killed in alleys, in caves, in ruined streets. Humanity had turned the galaxy into a battlefield with no front lines. The War Council met again. But this time, there was no laughter, no talk of easy victory. Their voices were sharp, their eyes restless. "They are insects," one commander said, pounding the table. "But insects can swarm. We must burn them out," another agreed. "We strike with fire so great that nothing remains, no cities, no caves. If humanity refuses to surrender, then humanity must be erased." The council voted, and the decision was made. One final blow. They would gather their largest fleet and crush what was left of human resistance in a single strike. It was a mistake, Admiral. Reeve heard the reports before the enemy fleet even finished gathering. His spies, ordinary people risking their lives in occupied cities, sent word. "They are preparing a purge. They mean to end us." Reeve stood in silence. Around him, officers whispered, worried, "Sir, we don't have the ships to face. Full fleet. If they come, we cannot stand." Reeve's face was cold, his voice steady. "Then we won't stand in their way. We'll make them walk into our teeth." The trap was set. On the outer edge of human space lay a dead system.
Ow.
No colonies. No life. Only broken asteroids and a dying star. It was the perfect place. Reeve ordered his survivors there. Broken ships, hidden among rocks. Civilian freighters turned into bombs. Miners armed with drills and lasers. Even children carrying signals through tunnels carved in asteroids. It was not an army. It was something far worse. It was humanity prepared. To bleed the enemy came with fire. Their fleet stretched across the stars. Hundreds of warships glowing with weapons ready. They moved with confidence, voices filled with arrogance. "This ends tonight," their commander said. "No more humans. Only ash." They entered the dead system, scanning for resistance. At first, they saw nothing. No fleets, no armies, no defenses, only silence. Then the silence broke. A wreck drifted close to the lead ships. At first, the enemy thought it was harmless debris, but then it exploded, tearing the lead ship apart in a wave of fire. Another wreck followed, then another, and another. The enemy realized too late they had sailed into a minefield. Every dead ship, every broken rock, every drifting freighter was a trap. Explosions lit the void. Fire consumed their formations. Warships scattered, desperate to escape, but more mines waited, hidden in the dark, and then the humans struck. From the shadows of the asteroids, small ships appeared. They were not powerful, they were not fast, but they were deadly. Pilots rammed their ships into enemy cruisers, turning themselves into living torpedoes. Miners fired cutting lasers into enemy engines. Civilians launched cargo pods full of explosives. The enemy panicked. Their mighty fleet, built for glorious battle, was tearing itself apart in chaos. On the command ship, their leader screamed, "It's not possible. They are finished. They cannot do this." But humanity was doing it. Admiral Reeve, watching from the hidden flagship, gave no smile. His voice was low, cold as steel. "This is not war as you understand it. This is survival. This is humanity." The trap tightened. Enemy ships collided as they fled explosions. Their weapons fired wildly into the dark, striking their own allies. Everywhere they turned, humans were waiting, hidden, fearless, merciless. A group of miners attached themselves to the hull of a battleship, drilling into its armor until the ship split apart. Another squad of scavengers boarded a cruiser and turned its own guns against its fleet before going down with it. By the time the enemy commander ordered retreat, the other half limped away, broken, scarred, filled. With fear, for the first time, the enemy had not won a battle. For the first time, they had tasted true defeat, as the burning ships fled. Admiral Reeves' words spread across every human channel, across every hidden fighter, across every survivor. Who had dared to hope? They thought we would die quietly. They thought we would kneel. But tonight, we showed them the truth. Humanity does not die. Humanity fights. Humanity answers the call. From the caves, from the ruins, from the stars, the answer came back like thunder. Answer the call, the galaxy. Heard it, the enemy heard it. And deep inside, even the proudest of their commanders felt something new, something they had never felt before when facing another species. Fear, because humanity was not only surviving, humanity was winning. The enemy was shaken. Their proud fleet, once untouchable, had limped away in ruins. Their soldiers whispered in fear. Their commanders shouted in anger. But anger could not hide the truth. They had been outwitted by a broken people with almost no weapons. The War Council met again, shadows deep under their eyes. One commander spat, "We cannot crush them with fire. They fight like beasts with no fear of death. We need another way." Another leaned forward, voice sharp. "Then let us not fight their bodies. Let us fight their minds." It was agreed. If force could not end humanity, then fear would. The enemy launched a campaign of terror. On occupied worlds, they made public shows of cruelty. Entire villages burned as warnings. Families were dragged into the streets. They left messages carved into the walls. Resistance means extinction. They broadcast lies across human channels. Humanity is doomed. You are alone. Your leaders are dead. Your struggle is useless. It was a weapon they had used on many species before. Against others, it always worked. The spirit broke. The fight ended. But with humans, it did not. On one captured world, the enemy burned a village. The survivors lit fires in the hills that formed the human signal. Answer the call. On another world, when families were dragged into the streets, they sang an old human song. Their voices shook, but they did not cry. They looked their captors in the eye until the end. The children who survived carried that song to others. On the channels, when enemy lies were broadcast, Admiral Reeves' voice cut through the static. His uniform was still torn, his face still tired, but his words carried iron. "They say we are finished," Reeves said. "Then why do they fear us still? They say our leaders are dead. Then why do we lead ourselves? They say resistance is useless. Then why do we win battles in the dark, in the dirt, in the silence? No, humanity is not finished. Humanity is only beginning." The enemy's lies turned into proof of their weakness. Every cruel act, every broadcast, every threat only hardened the humans. In the ruins of one city, a boy picked up a shard of broken glass. He carved 3 lines and 2 lines into the stone. Patrol saw it and laughed, thinking it meant nothing. But when night fell, a dozen humans came, saw the mark, and attacked. The patrol did not survive. The War Council could not understand. We burn them, they rise. We kill them, they multiply. We lie to them, and still they believe only themselves. Scholar, trembling, spoke, "We have awakened something ancient in them. Their history is filled with struggle. They carry defiance in their blood. Fear does not weaken them, it feeds them." Admiral Reeve knew it was true. In his quarters, he stared at a small photo of Earth, cracked and faded. He whispered to himself, "We have lost so much, but they will never take what we are." His officers came with news. "Admiral, our people are restless. The enemy has doubled patrols. They are cracking down harder." Reeves' eyes were sharp. "Good. That means they fear us. That means we are winning." The enemy tried one last cruel move. He captured a group of humans, fighters, civilians, even children, and broadcast their execution across every channel, hoping to break the human heart once and for all. But as the humans faced death, they did not scream. They did not beg. They stood tall. One of them, a young woman with blood on her face, looked straight into the camera and shouted with her last breath, "Answer the call." The broadcast spread farther than the enemy intended. Millions of humans saw it. Millions of hearts hardened. Millions of voices whispered back, "Answer the call." The enemy had meant to kill hope. Instead, they had created a symbol. Admiral Reeve stood before his people, his voice carrying through hidden channels, across ruined worlds, through dark space. They try to make us afraid, but fear belongs to them now. They try to silence us, but our silence only speaks louder. They try to end us. But tonight, we show them this truth. Humanity will never end. In every cave, in every ruin, in every shadow of the galaxy, humans repeated his words. The whispers became fire, and the enemy realized too late their greatest weapon had failed. Because humanity did not break under fear, humanity became stronger. The whispers had become shouts. The sparks had become fire. Humanity was no longer hiding. For months, the enemy had chased shadows, fighting miners with drills, children with stones, civilians with torches. They had mocked, they had threatened, they had burned. But still the humans rose. Now the war was changing again. Admiral Reeve stood at the center of a dark command room. Around him, his officers were weary, their uniforms patched, their faces lined, but their eyes were sharp. One officer spoke. "Sir, our people have grown stronger. We have weapons now taken from the enemy. We have ships rebuilt from ruins. We are ready for more than raids." Reeve nodded slowly. "But where? Their fleets are still larger, their armies still heavier." Reeve turned to the star map, dozens of red lights glowed, the enemy's strongholds. But his finger pointed not to the largest fleet, not to the strongest world, but to a single system on the edge of occupied space. Their supply hub. "This," Reeve said, his voice cold as steel. "Cut the throat and the body weakens. Strike. Here, and they will know humanity is not only surviving. We are fighting to win." The plan was daring, suicidal even. But every officer nodded. They had no fear left. Only fire. The preparations began. Engineers worked through the night, turning scrap into armor, turning cargo ships into war machines. Mechanics stripped wrecks of enemy weapons and strapped them onto old human freighters. Farmers delivered fuel. Children carried tools. Every hand, no matter how small, added to the coming storm. And then came the day. The enemy hub sat calm, guarded but not afraid. Why would they be? It was far from the front lines. It's protected by fleets, full of supplies, secure. But then the sky cracked open. Human ships poured from the void, old, broken, patched but burning with fury. Fighters swooped in tight formations. Cargo freighters, heavy with explosives, charged forward. Small mining craft darted like wasps. The enemy was stunned. "It's impossible." Their commander shouted. "They don't have a fleet. They cannot, but they could." The battle exploded across the system. Human ships struck fast, hitting convoys, smashing stations, tearing fuel lines. Explosions ripped through depots, sending fire into the void. The enemy fought back, of course. Their warships turned their guns on the ragged human fleet. Dozens of human ships were lost in the first minutes. But still they came, wave after wave, fearless. One human freighter rammed straight into a battleship, tearing both apart. Another squadron of fighters tore through fuel lines, igniting fire across the station. On the ground, resistance fighters who had hidden for months rose from the shadows. They struck enemy barracks, cutting off communications, planting charges. On fuel tanks, the hub was burning from within and without. The enemy commander screamed, "Hold the line, they cannot win." But his soldiers knew better. For the first time, the humans were not just resisting, they were attacking. They were striking like wolves, tearing the heart of the beast. Admiral Reeve's flagship moved into the thick of battle. His officers shouted updates, alarms flashing. But Reeve stood calm, watching the fire spread. "Admiral," one officer gasped, "we're losing ships too fast." We can't hold much longer. Reeves' voice was steady. Then we finish what we came for. Every ship, every life, every strike it will be worth it. Humanity must show the galaxy that we are not prey. We are hunters. And then came the final blow. A group of old cargo ships, heavy with fuel and explosives, broke through enemy lines. Their engines burned until they were nothing but fireballs rushing forward. The enemy realized too late where they were headed straight. For the central station, the explosion was seen across the system. The hub shattered in a storm of fire and metal. Supplies, fleets, soldiers all gone in a single blast. The humans cheered across the comms. Voices raw, fierce, alive. The enemy fled. Not in order, not with honor, but in chaos. The proud fleet scattered like frightened prey. When the flames settled, Admiral Reeve gave the order that shook the stars. His voice carried across every surviving ship, across every hidden fighter, across every human heart that still beat. "This is not the end," he said. "This is the beginning. They thought us broken. Tonight we broke them. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not stop. Humanity answers the call." And the galaxy listened. Other species, long silent under enemy rule, heard the whispers. If humans could rise, maybe they could too. If humans could strike, maybe there was still hope. The enemy had tried to crush humanity, but instead they had awakened a storm, and the storm was only growing. The flames of the supply hub still burned when the galaxy took notice. For years, every species had lived under the shadow of the enemy. They had seen world after world fall. They had seen fleets broken, armies scattered, leaders dragged away. In chains no one dared to rise. But now, humans had risen. The news spread faster than fire. Across hidden channels, across whispers in dark taverns, across secret transmissions, the story traveled. The humans destroyed a fleet. The humans burned the hub. The humans fight still. In the markets of neutral worlds, traders told the tale with wide eyes. Prisons filled with conquered peoples. The news moved cell to cell like a spark. Even in the chambers of alien rulers, who had long bent their knees, there was quiet hope. If humans could stand, maybe others could too. The enemy council, however, was not hopeful. Their chamber was filled with rage. They were finished. One commander roared, "We crushed their fleets. We shattered their armies. How can they still fight?" Another slammed a clawed hand on the table. "They're not fighting as a species. They are fighting as something else. Something we cannot break." A scholar, pale and trembling, whispered, "Perhaps they fight as if death itself is their ally. Perhaps that is why there is no word in our tongue for their war." The council fell silent. None wanted to admit the truth, but it was written. Across their faces, fear. Meanwhile, Admiral Reeve watched the galaxy shift. Reports reached him daily. Strange signals hidden in trade messages. Supply drops left in abandoned sectors. Anonymous warnings of enemy movements. "Other species are watching," one officer said. "Some are even helping us, Admiral." Quietly, carefully, Reeve nodded, though his face remained stern. "They are afraid. But fear can turn into courage. If given the right spark, and humanity will be that spark." Across the stars, the enemy doubled their patrols. They sent soldiers into cities with harsher orders. They demanded silence from every conquered people. But silence never lasts. On one occupied world, aliens painted the human signal 3 lines to lines onto their walls. Soldiers erased it. The next day, more appeared. Soon, whole streets were covered in it. On another world, alien miners refused to hand over supplies. When beaten, they whispered with broken voices, "Answer the call." Humanity's defiance was spreading. It was no longer only theirs. The enemy commanders saw it, and panic grew. "If others rise, we cannot hold them all," one muttered. The council leader hissed back, "Then we must make an example. Humanity must be erased completely, so completely that no one dares follow their path." They began to gather their greatest fleet, larger than before. Their plan, not only to crush humanity's scattered fighters, but to burn Earth itself, the homeworld, the symbol of everything human. Word reached Admiral Reeve through hidden channels. Officers stared at him in silence. One finally whispered, "Admiral, if they strike Earth, can we stop them?" Reeve's eyes were hard. "Perhaps not. But stopping them is not the only way to win." "What do you mean, sir?" Reeve turned to the star map, his finger pressing against the enemy's gathering point. "If they bring their greatest fleet, then we strike them with our greatest trap. They want to erase humanity, then we will show them humanity cannot be erased." The officers nodded, but fear lingered in their eyes. Earth was more than a planet. Earth was the heart. If Earth fell, would the galaxy still believe? Reeve seemed to read their thoughts. His voice was sharp, steady, unshakable. "Even if Earth burns, humanity will not die. Because humanity is not a place. Humanity is everywhere. Humanity is everyone who refuses to bow. That is what they will never understand." The preparations began in secret. Resistance fighters moved quietly. Miners armed tunnels, scavengers rigged wrecks. Even children carried messages across ruined streets, and far away, other species watched. Some in silence, some with small, careful gifts. A crate of weapons lost in transport. A message accidentally intercepted. Small steps. But steps all the same. The storm was building. The enemy thought they were marching toward their final victory. But in truth, they were marching toward humanity's greatest trap, and the galaxy was watching with wide eyes, waiting to see if the impossible could truly happen. If the humans could bring the enemy to their knees. The signal spread louder than ever, painted on walls, carved into dirt, whispered across stars, answered the call. The enemy fleet moved like a black tide across the stars. It was the largest force they had ever gathered. Thousands of warships bristling with weapons, their banners glowing red. They had one goal, one order, one purpose: burn Earth until nothing remained. Inside their command halls, they spoke with cruel pride. "This is the end. No more resistance. No more humans. When Earth burns, their spirit burns with it." They were wrong, because Earth was waiting. Admiral Reeve stood on the bridge of his battered flagship. His uniform was torn as always, his eyes tired but sharp as fire. Around him, officers whispered reports. "The enemy is moving into position. Their fleet is larger than anything we've seen." Reeve gave no smile, no sign of fear. His voice was steady. "Good, let them come." Tonight, they learn what it means to awaken humanity. Across Earth and its hidden defenses, humanity was ready. Civilians who had never touched a weapon stood guard in tunnels. Farmers sat beside soldiers, rifles in hand. Engineers crouched by charges planted in secret. Old satellites, thought dead for decades, hummed back to life, ready to guide fire. Even children carried the signal in chalk, and paint across the ruins. Answered the call. The enemy entered Earth's orbit with thunder. Ships blotted out the stars, their weapons aimed at the surface. Their commander's voice echoed across every channel. "Humans, you have fought long enough. You have delayed the inevitable. But tonight, your world ends. Your species ends. Or nothing." Silence followed. And then, Admiral Reeve's voice cut through the dark. Calm, cold, unshakable. "You think we are nothing, but you made one mistake. You gave us time to rise. And now you stand at the edge of your own grave." That. The signal was sent, the trap was sprung. From behind asteroids and hidden stations, human ships poured forward, not mighty fleets, but hundreds of small, fast, fearless craft. Fighters, freighters, even mining vessels armed with scavenged weapons. They swarmed the enemy like a storm. The enemy laughed at first. "Small ships. They cannot harm us." But then explosions ripped through their formations. Hidden mines detonated. Old satellites fired beams of burning light. Civilian freighters turned into fireballs, ramming enemy cruisers. And Earth itself awakened. The ground shook as hidden missile silos opened, launching fire into the skies. Energy cannons, long buried, cut through enemy armor. Cities in ruins came alive with resistance fire. Even mountains split open, revealing weapons the enemy had never seen. It was not one army that struck, it was an entire planet. The enemy fleet staggered. Their proud formations shattered under the endless storm. Everywhere they turned, humans struck ships ramming, soldiers boarding, civilians rising. In the command halls of the enemy, panic spread. They are everywhere. They are tearing us apart. Enemy commander roared, "Fight back! Hold the line! They are only humans." But no one believed him anymore. On the ground, resistance fighters swarmed enemy dropships. In the skies, human pilots fought with reckless courage, diving into fire to protect their world. In space, wrecks became weapons, mines became shields, courage became the sharpest blade, and then came the final blow, a fleet of human ships. Rebuilt from wreckage and armed with stolen enemy weapons, charged straight into the heart of the enemy. Command. Admiral Reeve led them himself. Its flagship burned with scars, but its guns roared with fury. The enemy commander stared at the display in disbelief. Impossible. They were broken. They cannot. Reeve's voice cut across the channel, sharp as iron. You thought humanity would die quietly. You thought we would kneel. You thought wrong. This is our world. This is our fight. And tonight you lose. With those words, the human fleet struck. Explosions ripped through the enemy flagship. Fire consumed its hull. The mighty vessel broke apart, dragging the enemy commander into silence. The fleet, once so proud, once so unstoppable, scattered in chaos. Some fled. Some were destroyed. None held their ground when the smoke cleared. Earth still stood, scarred, burning, but alive, and humanity had not only survived, humanity had won. Across the galaxy, conquered species heard the news. In prisons, in caves, in mines, in palaces, where rulers bowed in silence, they all heard the same message. The humans defeated the impossible. The humans stood against the greatest empire and did not fall. Hope, once dead, returned like fire. Admiral Reeve looked out over the stars, his voice steady, carried across every human channel and beyond. Tonight, the enemy rejoiced too soon. Tonight, humanity answered the call. And tomorrow, the galaxy will rise with us. The signal spread again, brighter, louder, stronger than ever, answered the call. And this time, it was not only humans who whispered it.